A very good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News. We do hope you had yourselves a very productive Thursday. Now here's a sneak peek at our edition tonight. President Paul Kagame has called on Africa's public and private sectors to work together for the continent's development. On Thursday, the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion disseminated of the National Transformation Strategy, which mainly aims at engaging men and boys for the promotion of gender equality. We're glad to have your company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Abera. President Paul Kagame has called on Africa's public and private sectors to work together for the continent's development, pointing out that what is possible elsewhere around the world is also possible here. The head of state made the remarks on Thursday as he officially opened the Africa CEO Forum here in Kigali.
The gathering is bringing together more than 2,000 participants from across the continent, and presentations made have been emphasizing the need for people on the continent to change their mindsets for the sake of long-term development.
We heard the private sector worried about three things. Number one, the unity of the continent. If you look at it thoroughly, 30% of the continent is embroiled in a kind of direct or covert confrontation. The second issue is our attractiveness. 5 years ago, in the same room, not exactly, but in the KCC, we celebrated the inception of the CFTA. And 5 years after this celebration, we have not enough progress, signs of progress on the CFTA. And third issue, our continuing deterioration of macroeconomic finances, with for the first time in 25 years, the increase of poverty on the continent. These issues are threatening to reverse 2 decades of progress. And from these worries was born the theme of the forum. Because for Africa not to land on the menu of global powers, for Africa to secure a place at the table of global negotiation, we radically need to change course. For this to happen, we need transformative agendas. And one agenda in particular, the leadership agenda. And this was the second thing I wanted to express in the LinkedIn post I mentioned earlier. The absolute priority we need to give from now on to governance, leadership, and accountability. Like many of you here, our group is a family business. It was founded by my dad, who was first and foremost a journalist. And I learned a lot of things from my dad's work. It made me curious, and it taught me the value of asking not just questions, but the right questions. And the right question is here: why are we in this situation?
Also pointed out was the need for an emphasis on the development of technology on the continent, such as artificial intelligence, and a push for innovation to address different challenges. It was also stressed, however, that none of that will be effective without the free movement of people.
We need to make sure that businesses in Africa can access to the best brain and the best talent on the continent. We need to have free movement of people, free movement of talent. We cannot move in the Free African Agreement if people cannot come and work in the neighboring African countries, when it's easier for them to go and work in another place, or another continent, and work on their own continent. And I would like to really praise and thank President Kagame for allowing free visa for African citizens to allow the best brain to come and visit the country. This is the way we will be building the human capital. The resource of Senegal could be here. The resource of Tanzania could be in Mali. The resource of Kenya could be in Côte d'Ivoire. That's the way the continent will be building this center of excellence.
Africa is home to more than 1.2 billion people, 20% of the global population, yet also some of the poorest anywhere in the world. This is the reason accelerated development is crucial for the population.
But to become truly prosperous, we have to upgrade our mindsets and aim for quality and complexity in our value chains. We cannot remain a place where people pull rocks out of the ground, which others then turn into high-tech products and sell back to us. It is not sustainable. It's simple and clear. This will take a lot of time and effort, but Africa can do it. In everything we do, good governance and politics play a very important role. Having the solution is not enough. The willingness to find a middle ground and not let unnecessary levels of bureaucracy get in the way can make things work better and faster. We also need to challenge the status quo across all areas, whether it is in a business, politics, or civil society. Anything that can be done anywhere in this world can also be done in Africa.
This is the second time Rwanda is hosting the Africa CEO Forum, the first time being back in 2019. Last year's gathering took place in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire.
Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente emphasized the importance of well-established infrastructure for attracting investment in Africa. During a panel discussion with prime ministers from various African countries, the focus was on creating a conducive environment for foreign investments to foster the continent's development. Dr. Ngirente highlighted the reforms undertaken in Rwanda to enhance the business environment and stimulate economic growth.
Notre leadership, depuis le début, était convaincu que le moteur de notre développement va être le secteur privé.
From the beginning, our leadership was convinced that the drive of our development will be the private sector. The question was finally how to get there. How can we ensure that the private sector becomes the engine of our economy? So what we did was a question of creating trust between us, the public sector and the private sector. And this climate of trust was created through dialogue. So we have always had regular dialogues with our private sector. But when I talk about ours, it is not only the Rwandan private sector, but also international companies that came to work in Rwanda. And for the foreign investors, we created what we call RDB, the Rwanda Development Board, an agency that is in charge of assisting investors who want to invest in Rwanda. It is a window through which investors use to access any kind of information about Rwanda's economy and available opportunities for investment, so the dialogues are consistent with the private sector. We may also speak about microeconomic stability, which is really important for any investor, and also fighting corruption, because investors cannot invest in a country where corruption is prevalent. But also we did some other reforms. First, we did legal reforms, especially on investment, the investment code, and we wanted the code to be favorable to all investors, be it local or foreign investors, and this was done in collaboration with investors that gave us ideas on what to improve. For example, you cannot attract an investor without infrastructure. We invested massively in infrastructure, whether it is roads, and now the road network is developed. All provinces of Rwanda are connected to the capital. There is no area in Rwanda where you can't go with a car and arrive there. Another example is internet connectivity. We are in a world driven by technology, and internet coverage is indeed necessary. We increased the internet coverage in the country. Another infrastructure that we invested in is electricity, especially when it comes to industries manufacturing that need electricity. As a country, we invested in building electricity infrastructure to ensure that those industries work smoothly. Almost all households in Rwanda have electricity.
Si vous avez envie de commencer une entreprise, par exemple manufacturier, vous vous y installez sans problème. Vous y retrouvez l'électricité, l'eau, la route. Ces zones aussi éparpillées dans tout le pays, à peu près chaque district, chaque entité décentralisée a sa propre zone industrielle.
CEOs of the public and private companies, along with decision makers across Africa, emphasize the crucial need for cooperation among African countries to shape the continent's future. This collaboration is seen as a key pillar for advancing Africa's development and progress. Adam Squizera has more on this report.
In the opening panel of the Africa CEO Forum that was focusing on the critical moment to shape a new future for Africa, the Minister of State in charge of public investment and resource mobilization, Janine Mnyeshuri, emphasized that shaping the future of the continent should be based on the unity of Africans themselves.
Fine, we are at that table. Is it a point of celebration that finally this year or last year we joined that table? How influential will our voice be if we don't stand together and have one voice? It's an invitation for us, yes, celebrate. You are invited at a place where you are one voice against 20 others, however you represent 20% of the world population. It is good to have a seat, but how influential is your voice if you don't come as one voice?
Dr. Sidi Ould-Tah, the president of the Arab Bank for the Development of Africa, emphasized that visible changes are occurring on the African continent as the years progress, offering the hope for its future.
In fact, when we look back 10 years, some may believe that nothing has changed. But if we travel, as I did extensively in Africa, and meet the captain of industries, the youth, the women working on the ground, we see a tremendous change in Africa. And that creates hope for the future and for the voice of Africa to be heard and for Africa to have the right place on the right table.
Some of the identified priorities for the continent include continuous cooperation between African countries, which is seen as a crucial factor contributing to the successful implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, ACFTA.
If anything that we are also a testament of as a continent is the downside of being fragmented or not operating together.
Sure.
So literally your question is a bit the answer. There's no downside to it. We can speak to many success stories. However slow the implementation of our free trade area is happening. And I guess the rest of the world is watching. The onus is on us to not be distracted, to remain focused on what we need to do.
So we have really to be faster in implementing that, because it's the only thing we should be doing today to make sure that Africa has a voice in the future. Otherwise, we'll remain fragmented, small markets, difficult to trade among ourselves, and all buying services and goods from outside the continent.
In the opening panel of the Africa CEO Forum that was focusing on the critical moment to shape a new future for Africa was attended by the heads of state who were attending the opening of the two-day Africa CEO Forum Annual Summit, which brought together over 2,000 delegates from Africa and beyond. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
The management of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, announced that in the 2.5 years since its implementation, the Gikuriro Kuri Bose has made a significant difference to the public's perception of fighting stunting and malnutrition in children and improving the quality of life of young children. We have more on this report. This USAID Gikuriro kuri Bose project aims to promote nutrition and improve the health of young children, which has helped the people to fight malnutrition and stunted growth in 10 districts where the project currently works. Some of the residents who have been helped by this project are happy that it has changed their attitudes and increases their self-development. My child used to be depressed, couldn't walk, and wasn't able to go to school. But when we were helped by this program, everything changed for the better, and he was taken to the hospital and given medication as well as proper nutrients to cure the malnutrition. Right now, he is in P6 and is doing well. We are very thankful to this program. Before, I never knew how to cook a meal that was filled with the proper nutrients, and that was having negative effects on my family. However, this program helped me to learn, and after 12 days, I was able to cook a healthy meal. It is a project that currently works in 10 regions across the country. The Vice Mayor of Ngoma District in charge of economic development, Mabano Nyiridandi, says that this project has helped them to reduce stunted growth among children. An employee at the United States Agency for International Development in Rwanda, USAID Rwanda, Dr. Heather Bailey, says that they will continue to work with Rwanda in dealing with this problem that threatens the lives of the citizens.
This hub is more than an ECD center. It is a vibrant, beating heart of the community, offering comprehensive care and education by trained professionals, nutritious meals, and clean, safe, inclusive spaces for children to play, learn, and flourish. We emphasize inclusivity, ensuring that our space welcomes children with disabilities. By promoting disability inclusion and combating societal stigma, we foster a more inclusive community where everyone can participate fully.
This USAID Gikuriro kuri Bose project is a 5-year project with a budget of more than $40 million, which is 45 billion Rwandan francs. Africa Global Logistics says it will contribute to Africa's development through transport and logistics. This center also visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial at Gisozi. Cedric Irakoze has the report.
Africa Global Logistics has approximately 23,000 employees across the African continent, and it is engaged in a variety of operations related to the transportation of goods across the world. We do transport, logistics, and shipping across the world via air, land, or water. We also do custom warehouse and heavy lifting. The CEO of Africa Global Logistics says that today's meeting of the Africa CEO Forum is important for his company and its partners because it is a good time to share information and look together at the problems facing the African continent.
It's a moment when we take time to exchange together on the future of the continent and the challenges that we'll have to face. It's not only dedicated to logistics and transport, but we will talk about the youth. We'll talk about the digitization of the continent. We'll talk about all the challenges that the continent is currently facing.
Hobito Roger says that remembering the innocent victims of the genocide against the Tutsi is very important because genocide is what is history for both Rwandans and foreigners.
The
genocide against Tutsi is worldwide history. So, our company and our guests who came to visit us have learned from bitter history, but we also get a hope for the future. The main partner of this society is the world's leading shipping company in the world called Mediterranean Shipping Company, which has launched activities aimed at helping Rwandans and foreigners working in Rwanda to import and export goods outside of the country. Cedric Irakoze, RTV News.
Thank you, Cedric, for that report. On Thursday, the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion disseminated the National Transformation Strategy, which mainly aims at engaging men and boys for the promotion of gender equality. These strategies include enhancing equitable social norms through promoting positive masculinities in education, health, and gender-based violence prevention, improving economic welfare of women and girls at the individual and household levels through the promotion promotion of positive masculinities and enhance women's meaningful political participation and decision-making through the promotion of positive masculinities. Fidel Rutaisire, Executive Director of the Rwanda Men's Resource Center, notes that there is a need to put effort into educating men and boys about the principle of gender equality.
Most of men and women who have been able to develop attribute that to their fathers or husbands. This means that gender equity is really important, and we are looking forward to this to build our society. And this starts with how you raise your child and how you educate them by showing them that there is no chores dedicated for women or men, instead that men and women should be treated equally in the society. And for this to happen, it requires the contribution of men and boys as well. This strategy aims to promote this and to give a guideline on how to proceed about this, be it at workplaces or in homes.
Disseminated national transformation strategies to promote the principle of gender equality will be implemented for a period of 5 years. And on behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, would like to thank you very much for sticking with us on RTV News. My name is Martina Abera. Stay safe and have a great night.